What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I am doing part 2 of February's PC of the month, which is this little guy right here next to me. I know we're already deep into March at this point, but that's generally how PC of the month goes. The build video, part 1, goes up the month it's supposed to, most of the time, and then part 2 is generally going to slip into the next month, sometimes, especially with all the Ryzen and GTX 1080 Ti stuff going around right now. I'm a little bit delayed on this, so hopefully that's okay by you. But today is very exciting. This is literally one of the smallest rigs that I've ever assembled inside of the Ncase M1. It's super tiny, so that means the two biggest enemies for today in our testing are probably going to be heat and acoustics, as generally those two elements tend to suffer when you're going with a very small form factor chassis. Now, that being said, we do have some pretty impressive hardware in here, which of course is also going to lead us to higher thermals and things like that. So we've got a 7700K, which I have overclocked for today up to 5 gigahertz, and that was at 1.385 volts. Now, of course, there are plenty of other 7700Ks out there that can hit 5 gigahertz at a much lower voltage than what mine was able to achieve today. However, that's just luck of the draw when it comes to the Silicon Lottery. The temperatures we were seeing in GTA 5 after about 20 to 30 minutes of gameplay on the 7700K package was about 85 degrees Celsius at the max. So it was not operating at 85°C constantly, but that is the highest recorded temperature that was seen on the package under load. So in actuality, we were seeing temperatures range from the mid-60s to the high 70s, which again isn't fantastic, but when you consider how small of a package that we're dealing with here in terms of chassis size and limited case airflow, that's really not too bad. And of course, we're still staying within, the safe operating temperatures that Intel's designated for the 7700K. We weren't seeing any sort of thermal throttling or anything like that. And again, we are pushing this to the extreme of 5 gigahertz, a very high clock speed indeed. Now, our graphics card was also overclocked, and just as a refresher, that's the Gigabyte GTX 1070 Mini, which does come factory overclocked, and we took it even further than what was out of the box. So we actually put in a 135 megahertz offset on the core clock, which took us to about over 2 gigahertz, over the 2 gigahertz mark at its max core clock frequency. However, when we started playing games and temperatures started to rise up, GPU boost kind of dialed it down a little bit until it rested at 1949 megahertz, or 1950 thereabouts, which is still very solid. It's a really nice overclock. We also overclocked the memory clock. 2177 megahertz is what we were able to achieve with a 325 megahertz offset. As far as temperatures are concerned, I was very impressed to see our GPU get no hotter than 76 degrees Celsius in today's testing, which is awesome. I mean, when you consider that the graphics card itself is a smaller version of a regular-sized GTX 1070, we've got a smaller heatsink that we're working with, smaller surface area, we've got a single fan design, all that sort of thing stacks up and really doesn't seem to do much in the GPU's favor when it comes to thermal design. However, we're seeing a completely different story, and I think that's a huge testament to Gigabyte's cooler design with this particular card, as well as that 120mm Cougar fan that I had stuck right underneath the GPU, delivering fresh airflow to the graphics card under load. Now, one of the main reasons I selected this Cougar fan for this build is because I know it's very effective at delivering airflow, but not at the cost of outputting too many noise emissions. It's a very quiet fan. So that being said, my main concern for the acoustics test today was going to be the two Corsair fans that are on our H100i, which are being run at the auto fan setting right out of the box. There's no custom fan curve for today. I kind of just wanted to see what the H100i would do on its own, as well as the single fan that's on our GTX 1070 from Gigabyte. I'm not exactly sure going into this test how acoustically sound that particular fan is. So without further ado, here's a quick listen at both our... Speaking of loud noises, Jesus! As I was saying, here's a quick sound test comparing both idle and load acoustics. Well, I'll be damned. This little mini PC here is not nearly as loud as I anticipated. I mean, when I first was going into this acoustics test, before I actually put it under load, I was thinking, this may very well be jet engine territory, because we're dealing with a really small chassis with a lot of high-end hardware crammed into it, and we're overclocking those components to a relatively high degree. So I didn't really expect the best. And what we found was not the best. I mean, it's not silent by any means. You can still hear it in a quiet room. However, if you're gaming with some headphones, or even like I was, maybe at 10-15% volume in GTA 5 when I was doing my own personal test, and I could barely hear the system over that. I mean, of course, combined with the window AC unit that kind of outputs a really faint humming noise, it was really not obtrusive at all in terms of just the system, the fan noise, and things like that. So good on you for making some really quiet fans there, Corsair, Gigabyte, and Cougar. I think on that note, the last thing we can check out today is the gaming benchmarks, of course. With all of this system overclocked, now that we've got everything figured out, we can actually see how this guy performs in games. So we've got, I think, 8 games that we're testing today, a really nice benchmark suite that should give us a really good indicator of just how fast this guy is. We've also got both resolutions tested, 1920 by 1080, as well as 1440, that's 16 by 9, not 3440 by 1440, but 2560 by 1440. I now have to specify that with 21 by 9 becoming more popular. But no 4K benchmarks because, I don't know, GTX 1070 is more of a quad HD sort of sweet spot, or, a high refresh rate 1080p card than it is really a 4K. So, with that being said, the latest NVIDIA drivers were used at the time of filming this video. Windows 10, 64-bit, everything's good. We're looking good. Let's go ahead and just run the benchmark slides. I don't know, what kind of music should we play today? Should we do some metal? Or maybe we'll switch it up. We'll do some little different. I haven't exactly figured it out yet, but I'm sure post-production Kyle will find the perfect track for today's benchmarks. Stop. God, no. That's just, okay, forget it. Let's just go back to metal. Yeah. There you guys have the results. Overall, a very solid performer, which is clearly evident by today's numbers, and even at 1440p, we were seeing well over 60 FPS on average in a lot of these AAA games at ultra settings, which is just awesome. Granted, it is an expensive system at $2,000. It's not cheap, but you do get what you pay for, and just the fact that we're able to achieve some really nice temperatures here with low acoustics and still get that tiny-ass footprint is really, really impressive. So, big things come in small packages, as my wife always says. So, that's clearly indicated by these results today. So, if you guys have any feedback on this system, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to toss me a like on it. It helps me a lot. But that's gonna do it for now, guys. Also, feel free to subscribe to the channel for more tech stuff coming at you really soon. Also, if you wanted to see this video a week early, you could also subscribe to Bitwit Ultra, and that's a week early. You get early access and it's ad-free and stuff. It's only $1.50 a month. The first 2 weeks are free, so just try it out for free. If you don't like it, just say screw it and just come back here. But that's gonna do it for now, guys. Thank you all so much for your support and for watching and all that jazz. I'll be seeing you very shortly in the next